Hello, Lisa. So first of all, I'd like to start by apologizing for last Wednesday to anybody who joined. We had multiple technical glitches of all sorts, but we're happy to have them solved. So hello again, and welcome to our ISTD live event with Liza Enebeis. Liza is the creative director of Studio Dumbar and an initiator of Demo, the Design in Motion Festival. Studio Dumbar, now part of DEPT, is an award-winning international agency with a Dutch heritage, focusing on visual branding and motion. Liza is involved in all the studio's main projects, such as the visual identity for the Amsterdam Sinfonietta, the DEPT Creativity Festival, and the brand refresh of the Van Gogh Museum. She is an MA graduate of the Royal College of Art in London, and before joining Studio Dumbar, she worked in David Hillman's Pentagram team in London for several years. In 2018,
you remember?
I do.
Yeah.
In 2018, Liza was elected a member of the International Design Association, AGI, also known as Alliance Graphique International. And since 2021, she's a part of the DNAD Board of Trustees, the Design and Advertising Association in the UK. And just before I pass it on to Liza, this is kind of my personal opinion, but Liza is not only a formidable creative director, but also a serial innovator, creating consistently groundbreaking work. She's also a lovely human being, a mother, an obsessive book collector, and since 2004, she co-hosts a podcast station, which I highly recommend, by the way, called typeradio.org, with an archive of more than 500 interviews of established and upcoming designers from all around the world. How you find time to do it all is a total mystery, Liza, and maybe we can talk a bit about that afterwards. So I'm Astrid, I'm the Vice President and Creative Director of the celebrated design firm Collins and the President of ISTD. And there's some exciting talks lined up for autumn and winter, so keep an eye on social media. The forthcoming talk is actually, spoiler alert, on October 27th with Brian Collins, who will talk about the role of typography in creating transformative brands. And Liza, just bear with me 1 second. Before I pass it to you, just two more things. The International Society of Typographic Designers, ISTD, is a professional body run by and for typographers, graphic designers, and educators. The society has an international membership who share and support its aim to create and inspire interest in all forms of typographic practice. Special thanks for today to Tony Pritchard, Brian Palmer, and Melinda McGee, who have helped to make this evening happen, and also to our new ISTD board member, Hugh Miller, for designing the lovely announcements that you've all seen using the new ISTD branding. This talk will last approximately 40 minutes, and after that, we'll open it up to Q&As, and you'll be able to ask questions via Twitter by tagging @ISTD Worldwide or #ISTD Live. And after my boring talk, a very warm welcome, Liza. It's a huge pleasure to have you here tonight, and thank you so much for joining for the second time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Astrid. And okay, let's go, because let's go. I will share my screen. I will say, can you see my screen? Yes. Yes, it's all there. Okay, so hello, everyone. And thank you very, very much for the invitation. I'll just tell you a very small part about myself, although Astrid told everything about myself, actually. And a small introduction of this from Studio Dumbar, and then really go in depth about Demo. So, yeah, as explained by Astrid, I'm creative director at Studio Dumbar, Type Radio co-host and initiator, actually a complete, like really, obsessive book collector and emotion fanatic. Forget the cheerleader, it's now gone really deep. One thing I wanted to say about Type Radio, for me, typewriter. When we started this project, I started with maybe a lot of naivety, but maybe that helped me actually go into the world of type and meet a lot of type designers from all over the world. And this, I think, was quite an important moment in time when we interviewed Adrian Frutiger when he was in an old people's home. And it was such a special moment, and how he went through all his work, and he really let us in, and it was a very beautiful, beautiful afternoon. So with Type Radio, that was really a possibility to meet really incredible people that really shaped our, say, typographic future. As I mentioned, I am an obsessive book collector. As I write there in the caption, this is not my home every day. This is when I try to put things in alphabetical order. Actually, yeah, if you live in a home and not a library, you're obviously in the end limited by space. So it doesn't really matter what order you put things in. Anyway, a bit more about the studio that I'm part of. It was a studio, and it is a studio founded in 1977, and we're 24 nice people, and really our main focus is identity and motion. We're also part of DEPT, and like Astrid explained, and this is a tech and marketing agency with over 3,500 specialists with projects that range from blockchain to the metaverse, and I will show you the metaverse later on. This is the Dunbar team. The favorite people are the ones in black, and then the other people are the ones that wear color. That's not true. I like all the people in the team. It's okay to wear color. I'm adjusting to this new reality. And projects include designing the identity for the Dutch railways, identity for the Dutch police, more recently, the identity or branding a nation or branding the Netherlands. Or projects for Future Natural. This is for Adidas, where we developed the motion system for them. So as you can see, and this has a lot to do with demo, and I will show you that later on, motion is really part of how we approach identities. It really is the way that we feel that it brings brands to life. But for us, motion was not second nature. This is something that we really needed to learn from scratch. So we began a lab in the studio where we started to teach ourselves how to work with motion. So some people, knew some things, others didn't know nothing. And we came together once a month and really taught each other different techniques. And for the first part, it was understanding motion in terms of appearance. So how does something look like? So not only, okay, how does it behave? What does this mean? What does this look like? What does motion do to the things that you create? How does a screen feel? What is the texture? How do different elements interact with the parameters of a screen? How to use different programs to create different behaviors? And this is with Cavalry, which really bridges coding with After Effects, or using processing. So this was one aspect of motion. On the other part, and a big part of motion, is its behavior. Like, not only, one thing, it can look nice, but how it behaves really can define a brand or an identity. So it's like a person. When you say, how somebody moves, you can tell a little bit about the personality of a person. So for example, this is for Avrotros. It's a channel about a Dutch channel about bringing programs closer to the people that watch it. So it always has this backward and forward movement. Or the brand for the Netherlands, it's about growth. So you see that sort of moving up. And not only about the movement, sound is also plays an equal part to define that motion piece. And last but not least, it's the tools we use, learning and understanding the tools, because once you really are akin to the tools or experiment with new tools, you can really create motion that is very unique to you. For example, like scrolling, you can create motion, but just by scrolling. And then this is actually not used very often, like to create motion, but I think it's just such a nice and simple way. It's like almost cinematic way to create motion. Or recording your desktop, you can create motion. Or even using your Excel, you can create motion. And other example where we customized tools to create different typographic language, and this was for ING Bank, and it was all about exchanging knowledge. So the tool we created did just that. It was the idea of exchanging these particles within their communication. So we could even, as a small example, create a clock for them. So motion really became integral in the way of thinking. It's second nature. So whenever we are designing in a way, we don't divide, motion is not an afterthought. We really combine, we design both in motion and in static. The two are coming together. And of course, that really plays a big role in a lot of the work we do. Typography plays a big role. Do not ask me the question, why do we use so much, so much type is, yeah. I mean, we're all here in ISTD. Of course, we're going to use type. So, but just to show you a few examples of how we use type in motion, I have a small selection here. One for MTV, where we used the typography for the VMAs, the big M, to create like a space.
Escape with us to this year's Video Music Awards, where these stars.
Or, and here you see it's at Penn Station with a big screen, where we really use the letter M to absorb you into the different videos that they were presenting. Or typography for creativity, or for festivals of creativity, where it really played a role in the campaigns for D&AD in the last 3 years. This was awards and a collaborative project with Dynamo from Switzerland, where they really customized their variable typeface, which was Marfa, to really extend and stretch out so we could use it in multiple ways, even for the awards itself. And most recently, for the last campaign, we used typography to really carry all the messages we were showing. And or when we use typography for visualizing music, and not, well, I don't know if it's, strangely enough, we worked on 2 projects, one for a classical ensemble and one for a jazz festival, to really use typography in motion at its fullest. And for Amsterdam Sinfonietta, we created a custom tool that could really react to moving image and sound, and create all sorts of patterns that became the basis of all communication. So for example, here. And with that, we could generate print, also older posters that we traditionally make every year. And here you see the selection. And last but not least, we worked for North Sea Jazz Festival. And this is one of the biggest indoor jazz festivals in the world, where typography had played a big role, really reflecting the improvisation and the way the music reacts, and that came back into print, and of course into sound. So we come to the reason we're all here. Demo, Design and Motion Festival. So you've seen already, like, this is our world in motion. And I'll explain to you how the festival came about. Actually, it started like this. Here you see a lot of the screens that we are very familiar with, at least here in the Netherlands, but I think these screens, digital screens, are popping up all over the world. And most of the time they're showing advertising, at least here in the Netherlands, but when they don't have any ads, they are showing these wonderful screensavers. They show penguins, jellyfish, I don't know. They show these things during the downtime when they're showing advertising. And at that moment in time, and I think this is approximately in 2017, 2018, we were asked, or 17, Exterior Media, who owned all these screens on the Dutch railways, asked us to come up with an alternative. They said, okay, if we're not going to show these penguins, come up with a better idea. So what we did was come up with a variable typeface. We designed a variable, and for each screen on every city, we could show this, we could show the city name. So this is for Rotterdam, this is for Amsterdam, and we made quite a big collection of them. And this is with a variable typeface. And what was great, I think, especially designing motion for screen with this variable, it meant that we could really create a typeface that really fit really well on the screen itself. So here's, you see the selection of them, and each one had the color of the city. So for example, Rotterdam, the color of the city is green and white, and Amsterdam is red and white. And here you see the full collection that we made at that time. So these were released, and here you see the release. And when we saw that, we were so excited about the whole thing. Like, one, I mean, we saw, of course, our work out there, and it's so not, I mean, anything, you know, that goes live. I mean, most of the times our work, we don't have we're not lucky enough to see really our work in our own city. So we were very excited about that. But it had also another two things that were important. One, it was using these screens in an alternative way, and not like just pushing any ad. And the other was that it really made a difference in the public space on how we use the screens. So we thought, okay, this is such a great opportunity that we have this good collaboration with Exterior. Why don't we share this with other people? And I mean, we could have been, you know, of course, if you get this possibility to use all the screens, of course you want to like keep doing stuff for that. But it was such a great opportunity to share this with other motion designers. We'd seen amazing work from so many people around the world, you know, just being on our screens, Instagram all the time. He thought, wow, why not actually show other people's work on these screens and really share that opportunity? So let's, you know, create, you know, why not have a motion festival and invite everybody that we know, and make an open call and really make this a big thing. So we approached Amsterdam Central Station plus Exterior Media. We got their approval, and with their approval, it was to take over all 80 screens, 4 video walls for 24 hours. And what is brilliant about that is we could really like not share it only with designer friends, but really with a bigger public, because there's 250,000 visitors going around, you know, in the going through the station. So we got the blessing to start, and then we had to design the festival. You know, it's all very nice to say, yeah, let's make a festival, but you have to make it also real. We needed to design a demo. So that's when the journey started. And the challenge with demo was to create an identity that also had a contrast from all the work that you would see there, because it's quite sophisticated motion work. And then we had to create an identity that stood out from that. And we started with this program. It's a free program that you can find on your iPhone. And it had this unique property where you can really change an object or from its core. And it's something that you could not do with other programs. You can't do this with After Effects. And that's what's nice when we're talking about using any tool to create something. This is an example of that. Like, it doesn't need to be super fancy to make the design that you're looking for. So we could change this from the core, and we loved it so much that we screen recorded it to make it into the demo logo. And the reason why we liked it was because it also had such a clumsy feel to it. It was different from, you know, everything else that was out there. And it was a way to also stand out. And with that, we created a grid or a systemat, you know, like a system, because if you're creating for motion, everything has to move. Your grid has to move. So when you put something on it, that always, it has to move. So this became the logo for demo. And I remember when we first released it, I was like, oh my God, look at that. Look at the points. What are all our typography friends are going to say? Look how terrible it is. I was like, shall we correct the points? We're like, no, we need to leave it like that, because this is how demo is. This is the personality of demo. We created a typeface with the same property. And then everything, all the communication that was put out there was also was moving. The website itself, if you you mouse over, demo reacts to your mouse over, and it was released. And when we released that, of course, with a lot of help from all our friends around the world, it generated 2,700 submissions from 900 designers all over the world, from 70 countries. And it was such, like, we just couldn't believe that something like this would get so much attention. And here you see all the pieces that we selected. Oh, don't worry, I'll zoom into this one. And a few of the highlights of that day. And it was really, really an incredible day. It's almost, we didn't expect it. The whole station transformed into a living gallery. From one, you know, you would go to one platform, you could see one kind of work, then you could walk downstairs into the passages, different work was playing, and everybody was standing still, photographing the screens. Nobody was rushing off to catch their train. Everybody was just looking at the beautiful work that was displayed. We organized tours, took people around to talk about the different motion work that we see. And these are just a few of the highlights, and just to take you through this one, just to see what it looked like in action. And it was really, really a special day, I think, for everybody that attended, and including myself. So what happened next was, that was 2019, and 2020, we were all excited that there would be a demo one more time. But unfortunately, as we all know, there was COVID. So we had, I think, 3 years in the waiting for demo. We couldn't organize another event. And we really, I think, during that time, dreamt about the whole event. But let me play this for you. So demo is back, and I'm very excited about that. And it's back actually this Thursday, 6th of October. And this time it's become slightly bigger, where we have the possibility to take over 5,000 screens, running through 24 hours. A few screens start at midnight, but most of them will start at 6 o'clock in the morning here in the Netherlands. And we released the project, and so far we generated 5,300 submissions from 86 countries. We curated the whole program, and we're featuring 815 pieces of work on the day. And we have 9 different themes where all the work has been put in different themes. There is one section also on type. Interestingly enough, there is less typographic submissions than the first year round. I have my theory for that, but I can answer that later. But we're all busy working on this. But if you can't make it on Thursday, one thing that will be released, and that will be on Thursday during the day, and this is still work in progress, but we also have a demo verse that you can access through Roblox, where you see it all on the walking screens, because obviously it's designed in motion. On the walking screens, all the motion that you will see at the stations, with the exception of work that may be slightly violent because we're in the Roblox platform, will also be screened. So the majority of motion can also see in the demo verse, but we're still working on it, as you see, and it's Monday night. So that's it so far. Thank you. And yeah, I'm looking forward to your questions.
That was amazing, Liza. Thank you so much. There's lots of questions coming in. I have to start with one about your theory on why there's less typographic submissions than in previous years. Why do you think is that?
Yeah, maybe it's not less of, maybe the number is the same, but there's a lot more 3D work that is been sent. So a lot of people are really developing their skills further in 3D. I think a lot had to do with being in quarantine, and we had more time to develop our skills within motion and develop 3D. Also, with the last year or so, with the talk of the metaverse and these new worlds opening up, I think there's a bigger interest. So that's why I'm not giving up on type. Huh? We're the
good. And well, I have lots of questions. I'm going to start with somebody else's questions from Brenda Dermody from Dublin. And Brenda asks that the festival is located in public spaces, which is wonderful. Can you tell us what you hope or think that the festival brings to a general non-design audience?
Yeah, I mean, there is what we see a lot of the times, there's an aversion towards these screens. Like people look at screens, they mention, oh, it's a Blade Runner, or it's advertising and it's selling, and it's, it is, pollution, or I don't know, whatever they call them, polluting our city. But for me, what I want to show is that actually, if you communicate in a better way, design in a more responsible way, that these screens and the work can really add to the cityscape. It's not, and it's more to educate not only like the people around us, but also like other designers and also other people that work in brands, that there is it's not how we look at the screen in a public space should be treated differently. You can't put YouTube ads straight on your screen outside and hope that that's going to be okay. We have a responsibility for our surrounding, and and we should treat it respectfully. So I'm hoping that it's also felt by the public that when they're beautiful, you also will stand still. And we saw that 4 years ago in the station. So I'm hoping now when it's in the city, or that's will have a similar effect.
So it's just a massive excuse to get rid of the penguins. Poor penguins. I mean, you just managed to get rid of the penguins and put, city.
Exactly.
And then another question from, again, from Brenda Dermody, Dublin. Can you tell us about any plans you have to capture audience responses to the work? And how might this shape the planning and curation of Demo Festival going forward?
Oh, in the next, capture their responses. I mean, of course, I can't sit there to film everybody, like how they're, if they, but I think that, yeah, we need to see this on Thursday. Of course, I mean, it's not like the entire country is going to say lights off and here we go to demo. Yeah. So, I mean, that would be a dream come true. There's a lot of regulations and restrictions in some cities. Motion is also in Amsterdam, in the city, they're not allowed to show motion, but in Rotterdam, in my city here, we are allowed. But I'm hoping that it will definitely be a positive reaction, and hopefully we can do this globally. I mean, not the entire country turns off, but have like connect different cities around the world and different locations, and to inspire more people around the world. We'll see.
And how do you curate? I just wonder, how do you curate? Because you said 5,312 submissions from 86 countries. That's a lot of submissions, and you have to watch them all. And then out of those, you selected 815. Yeah. What criteria do you use for the selection, if there's any? Or
yeah, it's not like, oh, yeah. I mean, there is criteria. One, we are 6 curators, and all of us have a very different background in exhibition design, in coding, in actually motion in 3D, in 3D or AR, motion in After Effects. So there was Tim Rodebrucker, sorry, I should mention everybody, Connor Campbell, Jonk, and Koos Brain. And we were all looking at different aspects when it comes to the design, and especially in the end, it's also looking, it's not always, is it new and is it the first time done, but how does it challenge the screen? Is it, if sometimes we'd receive an Instagram post that sits in the middle of the thing, and it doesn't really challenge the format of the screen. We also look at technique. How's it made? What does it, how does it feel? Like emotionally, does it work? The tension, the quality of the motion, and then it's looking at it as a whole. So there was a lot of work that I mean, all the work is great. I don't want to say there was shit work. Okay, some people sent in porn. That maybe was not possible to show in a public space. I know everybody thinks that the Dutch are very liberal, but that went a bit far. But it was really to find a way to, I mean, we created themes, and it was finding a way to also marry one with the other. And sometimes we had to make a decision, you know, like, okay, if this piece is there and then it's shown in this theme, if you have 10 very similar pieces, then you look at, you know, then you are looking at the composition and how do they all work together. So for the pieces that didn't get selected, it definitely is not, this is not a mark of, yeah, it's not to say it's bad work or, you know, like don't ever think, it's not a competition, it's an exhibition.
Got it. And another question from Tony Pritchard in Whitstable. To what extent will all visual communication be screen-based, and is print on the decline? What's your opinion?
No, I mean, of course, I mean, we have seen some things that have declined in print. I mean, we can't deny it, but I don't think one, you know, completely replaces the other. And, you know, when screen is necessary, screen is necessary. And when print is necessary, print is necessary. It's not that one will be made obsolete. I think that is really also part of our history. You know, it was always saying, you know, when the car came out, the bike, we would not have bikes. And when this came out, we would not. But that's really, that is not true. We just need to be mindful and of when we use what and for one, and not to print for print's sake, and not to use motion or digital for digital's sake. You know, it's not, these are not gimmicks. They should be really, they're communication tools and should be used correctly.
And speaking of that, this is a question from Astrid Stavro in London.
You. Hello, Astrid Stavro from London.
Yeah. When and why, and you kind of briefly mentioned it before, but when and why did motion become an integral part of Studio Dumbar's output?
I think it started about, about 6 years ago. I mean, when you create a brand, I think for a brand, it has have always these very human, we talk about personalities, right? We talk about identities, very human characteristics. And when we're creating the system, we have typography, we have color, we have grids. All this is part of creating the identity and brand. Motion, I think, is one of these aspects of it. And we had a feeling that this was very much missing in the work we're creating, because most of the brands we were creating were living on screen. We were not commissioned so much for print, at least on the things that we were working on, but they were screen-based. And once they're screen-based, they start moving around. You see them on a website, you see them on Instagram. And so that was the reason also for us to make it more part of our work, but we needed to learn. It's not every day, you know, it's not like, oh yeah, let's just do it. We started slowly, and it in the team, and for everybody to understand it, because it's not so easy. Like if you worked all day in black and white, suddenly when somebody says use color, it's not so easy to just bring something in like that.
Yeah, no, of course it's not easy. Imagine wearing a red sweater tomorrow, Liza. I mean, you would have a total...
I cannot do it. No, seriously. Actually, yeah. I really consider wearing color as like I would have bad luck or something. Really, it was that bad. Anyway.
And a question from, I don't know the people's name, but it's at WTFICANT, at WTFICANT. How important is code in your process, and what's the ratio of coders to designers in the studio?
Okay, to the whole well, there's two coders in the. It's important because there are a lot of things that we can do, like creating tools where we can also deliver, creating tools for motion, or tools that we can deliver to our clients that they can use to create motion themselves. And in the team, we have two creative coders, but then, well, 2.5, then we have people that also understand code and how to work with it. So they will not be hardcore coding, but really understand what the possibilities are. And I think that is really a good collaboration. So 2 coders, 4 motion designers, and then everybody else, visual designers and sound also. That's something
Yeah,
that
that
is
was going to be
also.
my next question. What about sound? What is do you have sound designers in the
One
studio?
sound, well, he's a DJ, he's a musician, he's a DJ, but also he Jasper, he makes all the sound to all the projects that we do. And that is really, this is, I mean, we've used sound in the past, but really working with somebody quite close that understands also what we're making is really great, because it's, in a way, sound and motion are like, you know, they're brother and sister. They're the same. You speak about it in a very similar way.
And we have a question from Brian in Cape Town. It's interesting that some of the tools you use are free apps and not Adobe After Effects. How much of a challenge is accessibility for motion-based design? And do you get lots of submissions from emerging economies?
If we get a lot of, yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of submissions from all over the world. I mean, using tools that are not Adobe, are not After Effects. We find that exciting because actually these means that you can find new things that other people, you know, that other people normally don't use. But I have to say a lot of our deliveries are in After Effects, because people that use, if we're making templates, the people that use them are normally accustomed to After Effects, but our beginning points don't necessarily mean just go with After Effects. And I always say, I mean, if we do workshops, I say that to everyone, like, don't be overwhelmed by the tools themselves. Like, even recording your desktop creates motion. You will, you know, I don't know, stop animation is motion. So don't be afraid of the tools. Wow, this is a t-shirt now. Or yeah. Yeah, anyway.
And Liza, a question about what do you think is, because a lot of the things you do, and not only for Demo Festival, but you know, Type Radio, and you know, from working with your designers in the studio, how important or what role does education play? And not only a lot of what you do brings design to bigger audiences, right? So in that context, how important and is education for you on a day-to-day basis in what you do?
I mean, to like the learning part. I mean, the fact that we started a lab, or we started working, like teaching ourselves in the end, was one of the biggest and most important changes that we made also with the studio. Like, taking the time to learn is really, really important, because you can develop yourselves. And I think if you're working in a studio, you know, there's one project after the other, and sometimes we don't take that time to really discover and learn, because it's deadline after deadline. And having that room to learn yeah, I recommend it. I recommend it, and I know it's hard, and it's because it's also an investment. I mean, it's a personal investment for everyone, because it means a lot of maybe a lot of the times after hours to do that. But we also saw that it's enriching, and it's exciting, and also sharing knowledge. Like, we don't have that. We don't keep like secrets. Like, this is also what we discover in the type community. Like, when we reach out and say, hey, we're having this issue within the typographic community, everybody's a lot more willing and open to share like tips, tricks, how and what. So I think that is, I think for education and sharing knowledge is very, very important, because that's how we will advance all together. Because if you just have one person doing cool, then it's not adapted and adopted. Then you never move forward. But we need to move forward together, and that's, I think, that's why we do demo also, because it's really a whole community. Otherwise, no brand would move in the end if it was just only us.
Absolutely. Oh, we have Hans-Dieter Reichert. I hope I said that correctly. And the question is, Liza, you say it's the responsibility of each designer to submit the entry. What about the responsibility of the curators? Meaningful communication is the responsibility of everybody, or of everyone. Is meaningful content vital?
Yeah, it depends how you define meaningful, right? There is it's not that meaningful can mean meaningful a lot of things, and it doesn't. Sometimes it's in the message you communicate. Other times it's a feeling, like the feeling that it gives you. It can be purely in color, that it can be meaningful. Few years, when was it, 2020, just before COVID, we were invited in Norway with a possibility to maybe organize demo over there, and we talked about the impact that screens have, and especially in the very dark months, because it gets dark quite quickly, and that having light can have a very positive effect to people around them, because there is a very high level of depression, and even that light is meaningful and positive. So that, I think, are like to think beyond, okay, what I do, and how, it's also the meaningful in a bigger context. That was a very serious answer on my.
No, that's a great answer. Thank you. And what about collaboration? Because we've been talking a bit about this. How do we collaborate more now than we did 10, 20 years ago? I do think I know your answer, right? But why do you think this is? Is it because we all specialize? We're specialized in different fields, or why has it changed so dramatically from what you defined previously as the ego generation?
Yeah, I think it's at least in the work of Studio Dumbar, it's also because of the way we create our the work, that we need each other. Because if you need, we have different components to one brand. It would be amazing to find that one person that can design a strong identity and do motion and do systems. And I mean, that, of course, there are people like that exist. But what we see is the collaboration also brings, it's a lot more enriching. People bring in different ideas, and yeah, it can't be done in isolation in terms of the scale also that we're working on. I mean, when I started as a designer, I remember I designed an identity, and I knew I could design the logo, I could make the stationery, make the guidelines, but and then I would say collaboration, with the photographer or with the with the illustrator or the printer, etc. But I was quite self-sufficient for, I don't know, 60% of the project. Now it's not. Yeah, technically it's harder because there are, maybe bigger technical requirements. But it's great. There is a difference now, I think. We're all here together on one Zoom. I don't know. There's a different feel, the sharing, our mentality has changed, maybe because of the way, I don't know, socials and how we communicate. So it's just different in our mentality.
Actually, that's perfect because it brings me to my next question. I was reading in iMagazine in an interview with you, and you said since the outbreak of COVID, the world feels and acts more united. And my question is, during a time when people couldn't meet in person, with many working virtually, how exactly do you think the pandemic had a unifying effect? Is it through these technologies? This kind
the
of
technology helps, but suddenly the whole world got connected. We had a common problem or issue, there you suddenly felt like we could only solve something like the pandemic if we worked together. So for me, that was really proof that working together is really the answer. The hard thing is getting this collectiveness again for other issues, that they're, when it comes to the sustainability but I know it's possible, and I think it really showed us that we came closer. And once the pandemic was, well, I don't want to say more or less over, because it continues in it does continue. But we also notice, now, every time there is a chance of getting together, we are very much together. Everybody's wanting to be together. So I don't know. I don't want to forget.
Together on screens, right? A lot of us.
I don't want to forget that moment in time and what it meant, and learning new ways of doing.
Great. We have time for 2 more questions. So this one, what are the future concerns for screen-based communication versus global and cross-language barriers?
Yeah, good. Wow, the hard questions come right at the end.
Right at the end.
Thank you for that. Yeah, communicate. Yeah, we have to be mindful, but of course we communicate. A lot of the communication can be adapted locally and quite fast. But when you are designing for a global company, you always need to know, be aware of what all your local markets are. You can't just say, oh, just because this works, I don't know, in the Netherlands, it will easily work I don't know, it works easily well in China. You have to respect the communities you're communicating. So I always say, one size does not fit all. You need to be aware of that.
And do you get submissions that are in different languages, or with typography, say in Chinese or Japanese?
No, we do. We had it translated because, just to make sure.
To make sure of what it's saying, right? Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Oh, I've been kicked out of the building apparently, but anyway.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, then I think let's wrap it up here, Liza. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you very, very much. And it's been amazing. And whoever's visiting the Netherlands, hopefully I see you on Thursday. On Thursday. The 6th in Amsterdam, where it's the hub at Amsterdam Central Station. Perfect. Amazing. Okay. Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.